Hi guys, it's Kelly here and I'm back with another video for Honeybee Stamps. Today we're going to be making my final Christmas projects of the season. So I'm using the Elegant Floral Frame Stamps and Dies. I showed you the Santa Claus background, but I didn't actually end up using it. I ended up switching gears and using the Spring Vines layering frames and the vintage layering labels. So what you saw me show you there is the Glimmer Specialty Clear Film. And this is a heat resistant clear film acetate that you can hot foil with. But I wanted to see if I could emboss with it. And so we're going to be making, originally I called them, but I don't even, just stained glass, but they're marbled. I'm not sure what to call them, but they're ornaments and you can see through them and they have alcohol ink and gold metallic and they're beautiful. So call it whatever you like. So basically I've cut the film into two A2 size cards. I've put down my alcohol mixative and now I'm just adding 2 colors per card. So I used a red and like a pinkish purple for one of them. And then the other side, I am going to use a blue and a teal. And I've just moved this around with my little Tim Holtz hand air blower thing until the vast majority of it is colored. I'm not going to be using the whole piece this go round, so I'm not really concerned about it. For this one, again, I'm using the blue and then the teal. You can use whatever colors you have. Red and green would obviously be more traditional, but I've made a lot of red and green this season, and so I wanted something a little bit different, and blue is my boyfriend. So that's how I picked my color scheme. So again, I'm going to put down the colors. I'm going to drop in the, what is this even called? It's a alcohol blending solution, not a mixative. And then I'm going to move it around just until the vast majority of it is colored. Now this is clear, you will be able to see through it, but the next step that we're going to do is, and I've done this before, I've done it with Yupo. So if you don't have this particular type of paper, you can still do the technique for the foil if you like the way it looks. I just have some regular deco foil. This is the kind of foil that you use with a laminator. And I am just going to take the sheet. I'm going to stick it. This is after I've let it dry for a little while. And the foil is just going to stick to the parts that are still sticky. That's it. Now, it does pick up some color, so I'm not going to be able to use the same sheet on both pieces. I absolutely would if they were in the same color family, but instead I'll just roll these back up because the alcohol dries instantly. I will roll them back up and I will put them in my container, and then the next project I do with a similar color family, I will do the same. I'll use the same piece of foil until that foil cannot be used any longer because I'm not wasting it. So that's a super cool technique. I do have other videos on that. If you want to see it on just regular Yupo paper. But the thing is with that, with the foil, you can only see it from the front side. You cannot see it from the back. So if you want to do the foil, you have to use it with the alcohol side ink facing up so that you can see the foil. These pieces, in which we are repeating the same steps minus the foil, are the pieces that I am going to do the heat embossing on. So when I do the heat embossing, I'm going to be using the back side. So I'm not going to be stamping directly over the alcohol ink. I'm not going to be heating the, putting the powder on it and heating the alcohol ink. I am going to be stamping on the I guess the back end of what we're seeing now. And then this is because, could I do it on the other piece? Yes, but I was very nervous about what the results would be like stamping directly over the alcohol ink, if I would remove any ink, if it would stain my stamps. So I didn't want to risk it. Here, I'm just using a little hand blower to dry it down more quickly in order to make sure, in case there's any leftover stickiness, it doesn't get on my Misty mat. I do have just a plain piece of white cardstock. Here, what happened, do you see that little piece of foil? I accidentally, when I was setting them over to clean off my surface, I accidentally set this piece on a piece of foil and it stuck. It stuck to it. So when I stamped it, I just stamped it in so that gold piece was going to be in an area that I was going to die cut out anyway. So I did treat this with my anti-static tool, and now I'm going to stamp with the Honeybee Be Creative Gold Metallic ink. Because acetate is very slick to stamp on, I'm being very gentle. I am using my Misty. I'm not pressing down a ton. I don't want it to smush out. I'm just kind of like kissing the stamp to the acetate. And then I'm going to ink it up and I'm going to do it again. This way, I'm sure that I've got a good impression without having to put down a ton of pressure and worry that I am distorting the image by smushing my ink down. So now that that is done, I have been preheating, by the way, preheating the whole time, my heat gun. I'm going to put on my gold embossing powder. I don't see anything sticking, which is great because acetate is notoriously staticky. And then I am going to go ahead and heat set this. Now with regular acetate or with Yupo, it would have shriveled up immediately. It would have folded in on itself. This worked great. It worked wonderful. You can see the embossed image there. It's super crisp. It's beautiful. I'm super happy with it. Now, there are some caveats. There are some caveats. And I'm going to do the same thing. Now, this is using the other ornament, which... There's 2 in the set. Speaking of the set, I should probably tell you, these are discounted. They're actually being retired. And Honeybee has seriously great like clearance and markdowns on retiring items. They are automatically marked down. You can get like stencils for 25 cents. You can get stuff for $1. You can get a stamp set for $3. This particular stamp set is marked down to, I think, $14. And then the coordinating dies, I think, are marked down to $16. But anyway, there's tons of stuff over there. These are being retired. They'll be the last time that I'll be able to, tell you guys about them, and you'll actually be able to purchase them. And I've used these before. They're beautiful images. So here is where the caveats come in. So everything heat embossed, gorgeous, super happy with it. And then I went to die cut them. I have been using the scrapbook.com magic mat lately. I've been trying that out because it was my free gift with one of my Black Friday orders, and I've had really good luck with it. This did not like the magic mat. It did not like it at all. So I ended up having to get out my previous plate. And I still had a little bit of trouble. I still had to run it through twice. But the biggest problem that I had was, you will see if you look at the die cut pieces, the very thin section that is the outline of the ornament totally broke off of the acetate. It pulled away. Now, is that where my tape was? Yes, but I had tape on the floral part and that didn't pull off. So I'm extremely suspicious that the reason that it pulled off was because I was manipulating it so much trying to get it to die cut. I did hold them in my hand and kind of wiggle them back and forth, and nothing else broke off. But that is just something to keep in mind. And then when I die cut the pieces that had no embossing on it, you do have to be careful, by the way, of the foil with the tape. You will pull it off if you put the tape over the foil. But I had to still run it through twice. But it didn't, other than that, once I switched back to my traditional die cutting plate, I didn't have any issues. And that for me is no different than an intricate die. And I know it's not the dies because I've used this set before. So I know that's not the issue. It has to be the material. So just be aware, this is not something you're going to want to cut intricate dies with. It's going to definitely be more open shapes. So now I have to figure out a way to fix the top of the the top portion of the ornament being gone, or the outline portion of the ornament being gone. And so what I decided to do was do some white heat embossing on a gold paper. This is the Concord in 9th. No, it's matte gold. And this worked beautifully. It did warp on me. The paper did warp on me a little bit, but I wouldn't say much more than regular cardstock. And then I had no problem die cutting these out. All of the embossing stayed intact. So there's 2 specialty papers that you can now stamp and emboss on if you're interested. Once I put these down, I realized, ooh, you really can't see much of that marbling, and I don't love it. I like that the hanger is gold, but I don't love that you can't see it. So you're going to watch here as I go back and forth between how can I make this work? Can I fill it in with a gold paint pen? Like, how can I connect those lines? But ultimately, to be honest, I didn't love this as it was. I didn't, even if the gold embossing would have been there. It felt too much of that color. And so here is how I decided to go about it. And this I was much happier with. So what I did was I trimmed off the acetate area of the outline, like just the top, like hanging portion. And then I laid that over the gold. And so it gave me the pink florals and then the pink ornament in the background, but it gave me a gold outline. And I was much happier with the way that these looked here, like immediately happier. So that is the way that I decided to go. The marbled effect, stained glass effect, marbled stained glass, I don't know what we're calling it. You could do with a bunch of different things and it would be beautiful, but because it is the Christmas season, I opted to go with the ornaments. I did have a little bit of trouble with the acetate sticking to the metallic paper. And again, it could have been my adhesive because I'm using a liquid adhesive, but I was very cautious because I didn't want you to be able to see through it. Remember, this is clear. Even though we've put the alcohol ink on it to color it, it's still clear. I put it behind some of the more heavily embossed areas just in little dots, and you could not see it through the acetate, but I did have a little bit of trouble with it sticking. I had to put it under a heavy object and let it sit, and then it's stuck fine. It had no issues. That's one of those things. Isn't it funny how we have a different perspective of things? So for years, I've seen people who use like the weights. People even sell them. Jennifer McGuire has one. And every single time I was like, I do not need those. Like, what would I need a weight for? My glue sticks when I put it down. And it's because, here's what totally changed my perspective. It's because I wasn't using a lot of dyes. Like, I was like, this is unnecessary. So shame on me for being a little bit judgy, I guess, I felt like people were purchasing them and it was unnecessary. It was unnecessary for me, but until I realized that it's because I wasn't using a lot of dyes. Now, Jennifer uses a ton of dyes. So yeah, totally makes sense that she needs one. I just didn't think that it was necessary. It was the same thing. We had a conversation a long time ago about like the inkstand, and I was like, I don't need one of those. But then I talked to my friend Jen, who has limited use of her hands, and she was like, inkstand's a game changer for me. Totally changed my life. And so it's just good to maintain those perspectives. That just because it's not for you doesn't mean that it's not for anyone. And you may find yourself, as your craft style changes, maybe now it is for you. I'm thinking maybe I have to invest in a weight. Who knows? So now, this is where I changed my game plan. So originally I thought I would just do a white on white heat embossed background, and I realized quickly that it really needed something else. And these layering frames that Honeybee has, I love them. This one is the vintage layering labels. I use it all the time. And the other one is the spring vines, and that one has like that little detail. I love the fall frames too. Anyway, they're all really great, but I cut them in their layered pieces, just the big layer and then the next layer in, so that I would have a white frame that I could pop up. These ornaments would be really cool for the one where you do the string and they rotate. Like, that would be super cool as well. You could put another layer of the colored acetate behind them, so that way you would sandwich the gold in between and then it would have color on both sides. Would love it. Would be great. But I didn't do that. Here is what I did. It became very apparent as I was going through that these definitely needed a little something, that the white on white was not going to be enough. And so what I did was the accent pieces for each of the sides, I did them in gold. And I am cheap and I love my gold paper, but I don't want to have to buy it all of the time. So basically I just cut this out of leftovers. Like leftover pieces that I had, and I was able to cut them out. Now for the pink one, I did tape them in, so I didn't have to try to recreate that frame exactly. I could just tape them in, then I'll put my my foam adhesive underneath it, and that will be good to go. For this one, since I didn't want to inlay all of those little intricate details, I just put some liquid glue on the back, and then I trimmed off the excess that was overhanging. And I did that for all four corners. You will see when I put this down, like when you see me turn it, there's already two that are done. For some reason, I was so involved in my card making, I did not realize I was completely off screen. So this is the one I have to show you. I then did the fourth one, and those were done. For the sentiments, sticking with that kind of white and gold theme, this is from the Inside Sentiments Christmas set, which if you don't have it, or if you're not familiar with any of their Inside Sentiments sets, I would highly recommend them. They're really great and make it super easy to stamp a sentiment on the inside without having to think about it. And then the font is matchy-matchy. So you guys know how I feel about a good matchy-matchy. So anyway, going to heat emboss these and then cut them out with their coordinating dies. So this is my last, like I said, my last Christmas project. We are gearing up for Christmas. It's crazy. All my shopping is done, but I have not started wrapping. Yes, I know Christmas is in just a few days. I am aware. But so then we have Peanut, because we are a blended family, so I do have shared parenting. I have Peanut on Christmas Eve this year instead of Christmas Day, and so we are doing a double duty Christmas Eve so everybody can see him for Christmas. We are doing Eric's side of the family in the morning for a breakfast/brunch, and then we are doing my side of the family in the evening. And so it's going to be a jam-packed day. And then Saturday morning, he will be here until like 10:30-ish. And then he'll go to his dad. So him and Caitlin will get to do their gifts and stuff together. And then we'll be on to my mama's house to do our Christmas over there. So just crazy. If you are traveling this season, I hope that you are safe traveling to your destinations. And of course, I hope you guys have a wonderful holiday. Here, so now I've put all my little foam dots on the back. I know how many foam dots that is. Do I know that I have a problem with the amount of foam I feel the need to put on a card? Yes, I do. It's okay. So I want my hanger to go underneath my frame. So I'm going to put them together before I put them on my card base. But I'm not going to push down the middle. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to line up my edges. I always find it easier to make sure my card is straight if I adhere it kind of from the side. I know that seems silly, but it does work for me. And then once I have that in place, I will go ahead and make sure my ornament is straight. I will adhere that down. Now everything is the same level as far as the ornament and the frame. And then I'll just trim off the top part of the hanger that I don't need. And then for the sentiment, this one, the gap is very small, so I didn't need to put any foam tape behind it. I could just glue it down, and really the only thing that is unsupported is the C and Christmas. And then that card is done. For this one over here, I switched from the foam dots because I know I have a problem with the foam dots. And I switched over to foam tape, and then I covered this whole background. You can see my haphazard cutting of my gold paper in the background, but nobody will see it once we put it together. No one will know. So I did that, and then again, when I put the foam tape on the ornament, I only put it underneath the floral part and the hanger, so that way the middle section with the foil is still clear. And again, I'm going to make them make friends together, and then I will adhere them down to the card. So one thing to note that that happened to me, you could see me like looking at the hanger, because I accidentally put it onto the tape and then I had to pull it off. Can you see just above the top of the card where I have a dot missing? The tape took the embossing off of the metallic paper. So that's the other caveat. I didn't have any issue, like even scratching it with my fingernail or anything. It isn't coming off. But apparently if you're using a stronger adhesive, it will kind of pull it off. So just be aware. But then that's it. That is both cards. I think the ornaments are beautiful. I'm really happy with the way that they came out. Don't forget to check out their clearance sale. It's a really great one. And I wish you guys the merriest of Christmases. Happy holidays. Thank you so much for spending your time with me. I always appreciate you, and I will catch you on the next video. Bye.